slower. So I think world GDP will unlikely advance much beyond about 3 or 3.5% per year. So I only bring this up because the function of this board is to give our opinion to the person that goes to the Board of Investments about what our attitude is regarding their choices, correct?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. So therein lies the nature of my feedback.
This is a chart we get once a quarter.
Oh, they show you that?
We get this once a quarter, and it's fascinating. We all just,
Yeah.
we love it. Because what it shows is how one kind of investment is on the top, and then the next month, the next quarter, it might be in the middle or at the bottom, and they go up and down. They're kind of interesting to look at.
So it's just a discussion item. Thank you, Marilyn, especially for, I didn't know you went all the way home and all the way back.
Well, it was my choice. I could have stayed.
But
I
still.
could have gone to dinner and stayed, but it was my choice.
I must have to leave early this morning. How are the roads?
It was fine, little tiny bit of fog, but nothing that was detrimental.
So financial statements, Nolan, and budget reports.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Is everyone sick of looking at numbers yet? We got about 5 more pages for you, so. But they're pretty straightforward. We're only 2 months. These are as of 8/31. Didn't quite have enough time here right at the beginning of the month to get them prepared for your board packet as of 9/30. But they're all prepared as of the end of August here. So that only gets us, at least for the budget, it gets us only a couple months into the fiscal year, and very hard to project only 2 months in, especially with all the variable costs. So I won't spend a lot of time on the budget, but on this first page you can see on our balance sheet a lot of what Member Ryan was discussing with the short-term investment pool. If you see year to year, we're at $105 million on the short-term investment pool as of August 31st, 2016. And 1 year ago we were at $46 million, so about a $60 million shift year over year, and that's with actually a $40 million loss in overall investment. So really just a large shift in allocation from, and most of that loss is in the domestic equity, which kind of speaks to what everyone's been discussing all morning with our investments being down. And so I mean that kind of leaves us with the total assets, about $40 million less year over year than it was 1 year ago, because there's not a big shift, in anything that we're seeing on the liability side. I mean that's going to be real small numbers, so it's mostly in the asset side. Any questions on that? The fund balance, again, just not a long time period we're looking at here, but just for this fiscal year, the total revenue, I guess there was solid returns in July and August, so that gives you with a higher investment revenue. And most of that comes in the form of securities gains of about $12 million, compared to the previous year, and you can see that in the investment revenue line, because our contributions are in line, with roughly what they were in the previous year. And then our expense, on the expense side, obviously our benefits pay continues to shift upwards, but it's in line with what we would always expect to see. So we have a little bit, we're always going to have, well, I shouldn't say we always will, but it's likely that we'll have a negative, revenue over expenses. That's normal. We just had to be less negative than we were in 1 year ago. So.
No, and I have a question, and maybe this is for Marilyn, either one of you. about 10% of the assets are in the Montana real estate pool, and maybe a little over 10 are in the private equity pool. Do we have any idea what kind of rates of returns are going on there? And I just want to make the point that those are non-liquid assets. You know, they're not like stocks that can be sold immediately.
That,
And,
yeah.
let me just say one more thing about that. You mentioned the Yale and the Harvard returns of last year. The primary reason that they outperformed is because they had fairly large exposure to real estate investment trusts, which did really well for a couple of years, and this year are really struggling. So I think you'll see that turn around next year.
Yeah, the real estate pool I can speak to, it is not that old as far as an investment with the Board of Investments, and it includes lumber.
Okay.
It's kind of unique. When you say real estate, it also includes lumber. It was done to be a diversifier and so during those low times, and it is not liquid. You're thinking about a building. You're not gonna go sell a building or a chunk of property quickly. So you're right, it's not liquid, but it was done for diversification. And I can't speak directly to private equity in that same way. I've not heard that discussed in the same way, so I don't know.
Do you know what the net returns are?
They're on page 17, so
Yeah.
the page numbers are in the upper right-hand corner of your first page. On page 17, it'll give you, that's through August 31st, what the rate of return has been on those two asset classes.
Those bottom two pools on the left side, real estate and private equity. And, you know, looking at what we received our portfolio received 2.08% last year on all of our investments. The largest, you know, return on any one asset class was the real estate return a little over 12%. So it was much higher than the overall return of any other asset class.
And the domestic equity is lower. I mean the private equity.
The private equity was lower than, at least last year, than the real estate, but it still returned much higher than 2.08%, yeah, than the average, so. But you're right there, much less than liquid.
See the inception to date on the private equity there, Dan?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
What is that? Do you know?
1994. Or
The
you mean
inception?
No, what actually is it?
It's,
I think there's two groups, right?
yeah, go ahead.
It's mostly, they do a lot of mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
And they're buying, the one firm that I heard talk when I went to the meeting, they buy a company with lower revenue, and those companies tend to be merged or acquired at a lower multiple. They try to figure out ways to pump up the revenue to get them a higher multiple. So that's how you can get those kind of returns.
So they're actively
buying and selling,
managing
they're
that?
actively managing, buying and selling businesses. There's one or two other
I believe venture capital is part of
yeah,
that.
so there's, yeah.
Yeah, is part of that
funding
as
for-
well, venture capital.
So they're loaning money to businesses
Mhm.
Right,
at
so,
high rates of return.
right, so there are some more risk here.
Yeah. I would imagine that those loans are also variable rate, so that if interest rates go up, they're gonna get a higher return on those venture capital loans.
You know,
There's part of it's sort of mezzanine financing that's probably variable rate, and then part of it actually is equity investments in varying companies.
and that's the other factor that nobody's talking about too much is what happens with the interest rates.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge question mark, as you well know.
So that kind of you know, all I wanted to discuss, unless there's further questions on the you know, balance sheet or the fund balance statement. The next page just shows, you know, our investment income to date, you know, compared to last year. And like I said, the securities gains is where we've seen, at least through 2 months of the fiscal year. I'm not sure if they've done as good in September. I want to say not, but but that's you know, that's really all I had. The administrative expenses continue to stay in line, so with what we'd expect. Moving on to the page 21, unless there's any questions on the financials.
One more quick one.
Sure.
Do you know what the length of term is for the advisor RBK, does that flow with with the legislative sessions, or?
No, their contract with?
Yes.
No, that's the Board of Investments, does that. I don't.
Is it
I-
annually, or?
No, I don't think it's annually, no. We just did it maybe a year ago. It's a contract and, you pay for certain things and
Right.
you went extra things. I don't know the days of when it will be looked at, but they've been our advisors as long as I've been on the board.
I can find out, I don't know offhand how long they're contracted for, but I can find that out for you. Give that to you.
Thanks.
I can call David Sam and find out.
So, on the M-Trust budget, we're getting close to wrapping up that phase 2 of the project. This particular budget shows about 3 months remaining. We're anticipate it goes through, the budget at least goes through, November, so, all the assumptions considered, we're assuming that if we continue to pay the way we have through November, you will still end up with a surplus. So even if it were to go another month or two, which I'm just saying that as a buffer, but I don't anticipate that happening at all, we would still have the budget at least to pay for those. And then, obviously we'll be presenting, I believe, a new budget at some point for the next phase. But, and those costs that you can see on the balance sheet in the construction work in progress, on page 18, those costs will go in as, they'll be capitalized and will actually go in as assets, and we'll start to depreciate those assets. Operating budget on page 22. It's just so early in the fiscal year with all the variable costs to, project out. I really don't anticipate us having anywhere near this much of a surplus, but just the way the calculations work. If you haven't paid some of those variable costs yet, they haven't gone into those equations, therefore, it projects out a larger surplus. So I don't anticipate us having that anywhere near that large of a surplus, but at this time that's where it's at, so I won't speak much to that unless anyone has any questions.
It is a little concerning that the 2017 budget is $201 more than the expense from last year. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a big function of that was our GASB 68. Was there a mistake?
No, I'm pulling your leg.
That could be. The big function though of that, if you remember back to when we approved the budget, it was the GASB 68 costs were, those first couple of years, we didn't know for sure how much that particular implementation was gonna cost, and we ended up paying our actuaries much less than what we had budgeted, and they have their processes down and gave us a little better projection of what, so we were able to reduce that budget, just that particular budget item and that's why,
Okay.
or that, if that helps explain some of why we didn't have a huge increase in our budget. And that's all I had. That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nolan. So let's look ahead to meeting dates, just getting them on the calendar. I think these have not changed, at least February 10th.
So these are the
These are-
first time we've looked at 2017.
Okay, oh,
So
right.
these are all
Oh, so
tentative.
we've gone through December.
I'll be out of town on the 2nd of December. Are we looking at 17 and not 16? Are we looking at all of them now?
Well, we can look at all of them right now. If you
Yeah.
wanna start with December, since that's our next meeting, we can do that first, and then look at 2017. So Dan will be out on this.
I'll be on the,
second.
yeah, first and second.
Sure. Does that work for everybody else, or should we?
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
Your head's in the way of December.
Oh.
Come over here. We're all looking at our phones anyway.
Yeah.
Except for him. The second's
So-
good for me.
Second's fine.
Yeah,
I've already got that on the calendar.
I had it on there, so.
Sorry, that's right.
Okay, so we wanna keep the second, is that what I'm hearing?
Should be excited.
I might be able to call him, actually. I'll be in Minnesota.
Okay, and then 2017, I mean, those are just best guesses of, typical, time of year we usually have our meetings, so they're all flexible depending on what the board can make.
My wife's calling me to tell me that May 11th is her birthday.
You should know that, I'm just saying.
No, that's right.
February tenth
So-
at this point is okay for me.
Yeah,
How
me
about you
too.
guys?
Can we promise it won't snow 8 inches?
Yeah, well, no, I know.
This will be my last conflict, if that one doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
February doesn't?
No, I promise.
Good, the week before.
Third is fine. 17th is fine. Third, 17th, they're both open.
Okay. Everyone
Third?
else, does the third work?
Third is a problem for me.
Oh,
Okay, how about the 17th?
17th?
17th is fine.
Okay.
Works. And we can, if necessary, we can adjust the February meeting while we meet in December. But right now, we'll move it to the 17th.
Okay. May 12th? Okay, let's put down May 12th tentatively for now.
August 4th is,
Summer's hard to know. Summer is hard to know, but we could
right.
tentatively, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, is that good for now?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to get out that far. That's next school year. Holy
Right.
cow, no way.
I already have PIR days for the next year
Oh,
in
you
there,
do?
so. Yeah, I do have stuff on the calendar then already.
Well, we're looking at dates and you're looking at calendars. If any of you, especially if you're in Helena, want to be involved with that next Board of Investments meeting, it's November 15th and 16th. And of course, the part that you'd be most interested in, when Joe gives his recommendations, I can certainly let you know what times, so you don't have to go and spend 2 days there. But it would be a good idea if anybody had the opportunity to go.
Do they have an agenda yet?
No,
No,
I don't have the
okay.
agenda yet, but as soon as I get it, we get it, normally 2 weeks ahead of the meeting.
Okay.
So, I will pass it on when I get it.
Marilyn, you said the 14th and the 15th?
No, the 15th and the 16th.
15th and 16th.
15th and the 16th.
And it's kind of open where you can go to parts of it.
Yes, oh yeah, you just come and go as you choose. And there is a possibility that I will not be there for the full meeting, so if anybody can go, I think it would be a really good idea.
Typically starts at 8 or 8:30.
8:30. The committees are at 8, but usually the general meetings starts, well, it It could be later, depending on which committees are going on, but I can let you know as soon as I get the agenda. And, I have no idea what time or what day Joe's presentation would be.
All right, so it looks like we have our administrative business done with the meeting dates. We have public comment.
Can you recap those meeting dates for me as you
Sure.
finally read on them, please?
Yes, so December 2nd,
Okay.
February 17th, May 12th, and August 4th right now.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay,
All right. Take a little break. Let's do like 10 minutes.
sure. Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah, we'll be able to make it
We're
work
okay.
this time, I think. Okay.
I know I have to leave at noon today, and I know you have to leave